What's up, millionaires? Today we have a treat. This is awesome. We are going to show you how a world-class leader applied basically 2-second lean to agriculture. And he doesn't call it 2-second lean, but that's what happens. Warning in advance, my audio battery was going out. That's entirely my fault, but the content is incredible. At the beginning, we give you a background over what the system is called. Then we give you the tour towards the middle of the video. Go ahead and if you want to see that, jump to this timestamp on the screen now. What's up, Hillbilly millionaire homesteaders out there? We are in New York, the state, not the city. That place I hear is crowded. And we are with the one, the only, the 18-year-old gal's wet dream, Mark Shepard. Owner of Restoration Agriculture.
Good morning. It'll be a long day. We'll stop at a lot of cool places, and you'll see some pretty neat things. Be ready to open your mind and be available to new experiences. And instead of coming up with mental concepts to describe things, just let it be and check it out.
If you haven't checked out his book, it is on the screen right now. Or you don't know anything about Mark Shepard, this guy's a huge deal. So go out, learn about things, educate yourself. If you're interested in permaculture or homesteading, this could be very applicable to you. And so today we're going to be taking you around and we're going to be showing you not a food forest. If you call it a food forest, you'll be corrected. The development of an ecosystem that self-sustains and promotes itself. And so we're going to take you around. If you guys have not checked out Mark's book, he teaches you how we can feed the world and reduce and reverse climate change where it's not just sustainable, but regenerative. So we're gonna take you around today. We need what we're gonna see today to be replicated across everywhere in the United States.
Everywhere in the world.
Everywhere in the world. So when we look back historically, you take Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, your flyover states, and in the 1830s, we just logged and cut everything down, right?
Yeah, and there was a lot of open grasslands simply because of water deficiency there. And then all we have to do is a little bit of earthworks to collect, store, and infiltrate the water that does fall from the sky, and we can be growing things there that we could only imagine. Let's take for an example one of our team members in Colorado. They get 3 inches of rain a year, and he has 0 water rights. Who would buy a sagebrush desert with 3 inches of rain a year, no water rights?
I probably would.
Then he sculpted the land to catch any water and snow and spread it around. Within 4 years, he has green grass everywhere, and he's grazing cattle and growing trees.
He's who did the intro to your Water for Any farm, correct?
No.
Different guy.
No, Jack Spirko's down in Texas. And he's a classic suburban homesteader guy, survivalist prepper homesteader guy.
Right.
Check out the Survival Podcast.
The Survival Podcast. Guys, check out the Survival Podcast.
Don't forget that it's not a plan.
Hope is not a plan.
Right.
So what we're doing today is what Mark has done is basically, if you go back in time, there were a bunch of 60 or 80 acre homesteads that were all over the world, really. And with the advent of industrial and mechanization and the Industrial Revolution, that farm scale got bigger and bigger. It really exploded in the 40s after the war. The chemical companies said, hey, you know what? We can spread this stuff directly onto the ground instead of making it for bombs. We still want to make money. And so with that, we, for 60 or 80 years, have mass big ag. And that is actually really bad. It's unsustainable. And that's what we're dealing with
and so
today.
On the sustainability part, no matter where you are, look outside at the vegetation that's growing all by itself, the wild stuff.
No one takes care of that.
And here in New York, exactly right. Nobody, and look at that shrubland over there. It's growing in an old field. Nobody plowed the ground, added fertilizer, did cover crops for 9 years, put mulch and trim and prune. It's taking care of itself all by itself. So if we imitate those systems and use many of the species in those systems, and we plant a system that's heavily loaded with food, then you'll be producing food with the natural productivity of the site, and you go out and harvest it, and that's called a farm.
Yep.
And for all of you die-hard vegans who don't know, big ag is just as destructive as all of the processes used to process meat and slaughter animals.
Yeah, if you're gonna eat a bunch of soybeans, step one, kill go and clear cut an entire forest. Then
Section of ecosystem.
destroy the ecosystem, then kill all the foxes and all the things and the deer that could have ended up eating all the soybeans. So it's super bad. And then drive a combine or tractor across that thing 9 times in a season, hoping that you actually get a crop at the end of it.
And so for people who don't eat animals, oh my gosh, you set up systems like this all over the place, and you can eat all the calories coming off the trees and bushes and vines, and you wouldn't believe the wildlife that shows up. It's beautiful. All kinds of rare and endangered species that are living at my farm, not because I'm like preserving them, but because I'm farming the way I'm farming, with the trees and shrubs and bushes and vines that are an ecosystem.
So
a
what?
Place to live.
Wherever you're at, if you're watching this video, there is an ecosystem that naturally exists around you. Even if you're in the desert, you can walk outside and take a look in the ditch, and you can. And Mark's team, Restoration
Agriculture Development.
The logo's on the screen right now. They specialize in designing an ecosystem where you live that can be self-sustaining and produce food. So instead of having a natural forest that's outside, if you're in a forested area ecosystem, they mimic whatever's local to you, but you just interlace it with food-producing things. And boom, no one takes care of it, no one plows it. It's huge. That's what we're going to see today. Here we are at one of multiple sites, Hayberry Farms, and here is the base area, and this is just several blueberry farms here. Up at the road, which you can't see, right about there, is a lavender farm. Lavender farm is pick your own lavender, and there's cars piled up everywhere. Now, what you may or may not be able to see, those are lines way over there on the hillside. They go all the way up. Those are the swales that were created, and they've interplanted different tree crop species. As the water trickles down, it hits a swale and moves that way. Then more water trickles down, hits the next swale, moves that way. It captures all the water, and it's self-watering, so no one has to ever take care of them.
So this is what's amazing. This is what, I'm not saying that we're going to grow this way, but I'm saying here is the natural example of zero care system. We've got raspberries, obviously for fruit. We've got garlic, mustard, beans, wild strawberries on the ground. So strawberries, fresh salad greens, raspberries. There were grapes, there's cherries, and maple for sugar. All food, 100% food.
And where were we?
We are in upstate New York right now, and there's like...
Well, we're just by the side of a road.
We're on the ditch on the side of the road. Nobody planted this. I mean, look at the mulch. Who mulched it? Nobody mulched it. It mulches itself. Hello. Nature does all the work for you. All we have to do is figure out how to utilize what nature grows and plant systems that have even more food plants in there, from low on the ground all the way to 60, 70 foot tall.
Quick question for you, Mark. So in a system like this, where nature's really doing the work, and we're replicating systems like that, like you talk about. You're talking about this, the system's called restoration agriculture, right?
Right.
So when a system works like this, happens to things like climate change and ozone and all that fun stuff.
Well, you've seen some of the video footage of these cornfields. This is the 1st of June, 20 days shy of the longest days of the year when we should be capturing all the sunlight we possibly can. Those cornfields right now are still bare soil. They're not producing anything for anybody. And so these bare dirt cornfields, if you really were serious about capturing sunlight, taking carbon out of the atmosphere, and maximizing your profit potential, because if you're a farmer, we're in the business of collecting sunshine. We are in the solar collection business. Wouldn't it make sense for us to be harvesting sunshine from the middle of May off a 100-foot solar panel? These trees are 60, 70 foot tall. So this right here is in full production for the past month. So this is nature. Well, so we can take these bare black dirt cornfields, restore them to a more natural state. But how do you do that? How can you afford to do that? You can afford to do that by calling it a farm business. It's agriculture. We're going to plant the food species on purpose in rows, so we can mechanically plant them, we can mechanically maintain them, we can mechanically harvest them. It's easy to move fence if you're going to be grazing livestock in a system like that. So we can have grass over here where our grass-loving animals are, our cattle, sheep, chickens, and pigs. And then we have our shrubs and our cane fruits. We have vines, short trees, medium trees, tall trees. A lot of people say, well, how do you know, which ones are going to be tall and which ones are going to be short? It's like, you don't have to. You plant them, the tall ones will grow tall and the short ones will stay short. It's pretty easy. They sort it out.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all? Did I successfully avoid answering your question?
I would just say nature is rad. No, but that 100%. So, and I'm asking these questions, like I said, my cousin is pretty involved on a national scale with all these companies trying to be outsmart nature and fix all this stuff, and nature is smart enough on its own to do what nature does best. We just give it a guide. You put it in the right place, let it, and you direct it a little bit.
It's been here for zillions of years.
Yeah.
It's been through, I think it was like 800 ppm carbon in the atmosphere at one point in time.
Jeez.
All right, guys, we are currently here standing inside the hill that we were just at earlier. Previously, we were down there. As we're around, we see these and they're in a zigzag pattern. This land in between is rented out to people who do rotational grazing, and they'll graze cattle or whatever animal they're grazing. We are checking these swales out, and Mark got all excited about this chestnut tree here.
So this is only 3 years old. It's already, and it's a hybrid, and it's already getting set to flower. It'll have nuts this year. I don't know how many.
Right there.
Yeah, so at first it sends out catkins that don't have the female part, it's just a male part. But then eventually you'll start to see a swollen part that'll become the spiny burr where the chestnuts are.
So you have a 3-year-old one, it's popping out. Is this one 3 years old too? But
Yes.
it's way down here.
Yep, that's probably Chinese.
Oh.
The Chinese are slow to grow, slower to bear than the hybrid.
So Mark was saying all the ones out are probably hybrids. Those hybrids probably will come out first, but then they will get chestnut blight.
Eventually, yeah.
The ones in the tubes at the bottom are slower growing, they're Chinese. Those Chinese ones come up later and start fruiting, but the hybrids are still producing. Eventually these will get blight and die. So they cull them, grow mushrooms on what's left over, and everything is used. This is all zigzagged. If you see here, there's, I'm not sure how well it comes up on camera, but I'm going to try to follow the contour. Up, and it goes back down with a pretty sharp drop off. This right here, we're standing on top of a swale. When it rains, this flat area collects all the water and it tries to wash downhill, but it can't. It hits this berm, which is in front of the chestnut trees, and the water starts to flow that way. When it gets over there, it makes a U-turn, zigzags, and then it flows on a berm, just like what I'm standing on a swale, down the other way. The water zigzag. These trees are ever watered, which is huge. All right, I'm trying to hold this as level as we can, but right here is a great example of swale in action. All the soil, by the way, this is just a rock. I mean, it was gone, it was away from the farming since the 1600s. So it washes, hits this, flows that way. However, this swale goes all the way this way and wraps around to that one. So the water from up there is slowly passing all these trees, soaking into the berm. And these chestnuts are planted in front of the berm, and then water permeates through and waters the trees. Then it finally makes its way around, so on and so forth, all the way down. Does the same thing down there, comes back around, down that hillside, then back once more, then back once more, all the way out until it's done. And so this is happening. This took, 2 to 3 weeks, just set this place up for 1,000 years or more, forever, of this area being fertile. Maybe all of us die and there's something else here. This land will keep growing forever. All right. This is how you go from corn, if this were just a pasture when they bought it, to something productive. Everything here is trying to become that beautiful forest land over there. So what Mark's done is they've weaponized engineering and grazing and good process, and now they've created a self-sustaining ecosystem. 100 years from now, Mark's dead, I'm dead. You guys are watching this video, you might be dead. This is going to look like that, only be food with a almost but closed park where there's beautiful trees. Each one of these trees will be about that tall over there, and they're almost connecting, and all of this is nice, beautiful grassland in between.
That's surrounded golf courses and green space. So all around it, in between where they may have the putting green and all of the manicured landscape, you had things that were producing food. So it wasn't just the property values were up and people enjoyed living there. You could cultivate natural things to use in your everyday home right around the, you know, your bougie golf course.
So then maybe we should put in a couple of tees and greens.
Yeah,
Call it the serious rough.
Right. Put in a pickleball court and people will flock to this place.
Mark, what was the time it took to build all of this?
What do you mean?
To go to do this, so day one, I'm Joe Blow watching this video. I'm gonna buy a piece of crap farmland.
Right.
Step two, how long does it take to get to here and down there where they're actually already producing income?
Right. It's a good question, and it depends on your crop mix and what you choose to do first, et cetera, et cetera. But as far as designing the whole agroforestry system, the overall farm plan, we start with a site analysis. So, you know, Rad sends in one of our consultants. We go over and see what the natural plant community types are, what the potentials are, what the landowner actually wants to accomplish. We figure out a plan that will strategize how to get there. That's step one. And step two is we come in and we design the system directly on the, instead of drawing a picture and adding an expensive step in the middle, we design it from the actual movement of water on the landscape and where you want it to go.
So lean, we call Taishono is go and see. Do it at the shop floor. Don't do it in an office somewhere else.
Right, exactly right. I like that. Thank you. And so then it probably took me 3 or 4 days of survey work in front of the bulldozer that was excavating behind me. And so then the bulldozer came in and he spent probably close to a month here because there was a lot of you know, abandoned farmland that had gone back to brush, multiflora rows. There's a lot of erosion gullies that we had to fill. I forget how many ponds are here. I think like 14 or so, 15 ponds. And if you're ever digging a pond, especially the bigger one that we were at, it takes a lot of time staying in the same spot, going back and forth until that pond is dug. So the ponds are the big time burner on this. So it's probably the better part of a month to get the majority of this set up. Then phase 3 was to come in the following year after everything had been, you know, reseeded with grasses. And then we planted the trees. Year 3, planting the trees, I don't think took longer than 2 or 3 days here.
So it's a few weeks up front. Then later, you had 2 or 3 days for planting the trees.
Correct.
And so the rest of the time you're just waiting. So you're still enjoying your WQ job.
Right.
Still doing whatever you hate doing, but you built this. Now you just got to wait for time to pass.
And here, well, and right away, you know, you get yields from either grazing in the alleys. There are other places where the farmer who is growing corn, for example, they keep growing corn, and then keep the residual income, because it's nice to have somebody take care of the place for you.
So what you're saying is, there's a house behind us. We're not going to show too much of it, but there's a house behind you. You bought a piece of land, and it's got all this farmland. And you have no interest in being a farmer.
Right.
You come in, you do this to it, and then you set whoever lives in that house up to rent little pieces. There's a bee guy down there. There's a blueberry guy.
There's bees, blueberries, lavender, vegetables. There'll be a grazer here. They're not quite ready yet. There's already a chicken person. So is that 6 different enterprises? They're their own private independent businesses.
So they're
they come
paying
in.
This guy in the house. And
correct.
Who's maintaining all that?
The farmers maintain it.
So it's not the guy in the house.
Nope. Nope. Guy in the house goes to their W-2 job, like you were saying.
Well,
yeah.
I think I'm dumb. I need to do that. All right, guys, so we've got the Hayberry Farm right here. Give them a look if you're in the New York area. But right here is an actual highway, and right by the highway is a very interesting monetization system that one of the renters came up with that rents the farmland. And it is a drive-by pick your own lavender plant. So in the summer, they have nothing but hundreds of cars lining and parking all the time. And they're coming right here and they're picking their own stuff, you know, $5, get a credit card machine or whatever. Then later they have their blueberry patch there. Of course, the bees are there. And look at this, you got wood chips. Oh, that's wood chips wanted. I was gonna say, if they had excess, let's say it was forest land and they're going backwards, right? Instead of taking it from farmland, making it productive, they're taking unproductive forest land and making it productive. They'd have extra wood chips. They could sell that as a byproduct as well. So really interesting stuff they're doing to monetize every aspect of things. Again, people want to talk about, everything comes back to money, right? It's about, doesn't have to be a lot, but the reason why a lot of the stuff doesn't take off is because no one can figure out how to reliably make a living from things. Well, now, all the little businesses that are renting a small portion of this farm did not have to spend $200, $300, $1 million to buy the land first and have no money to do the thing. Here, they spent money, they bought 1, 2, 3 little sheds, and they got to invest their money into that. They pay a little bit of rent, they make their income. Whoever owns the land is getting the income. So we can replicate a bunch of these all over the place where you have your little hobbyist farmers. There might be a beekeeper, right? Oh, you can't keep bees in your neighborhood? Cool. These need crop pollination services anyways. Pay a little bit of rent, put the bees here. Now you turn around, you have all your honey selection. This is a blueberry patch. You can have specialty blueberry honey. The guy who does the blueberries does not want to fuss with bees. They want to fuss with blueberries. That's what they're interested about. And again, they got to spend their money on blueberry trees. They didn't have to spend their money buying the land and then standing all the infrastructure up. So it's just an interesting web of the way communities used to be, where everybody helped each other and cooperated. That's what you mimic. But you do it in a modern day with a business sense, and it actually matters, instead of a permaculture mindset where it's self-sustaining, it's just me, I gotta make it all on my own. That's not gonna work as well as tons of these. Everyone is a small economic engine that's helping assist someone who wants to do that as a small farmer. Now all of a sudden, you have all of this that's being regenerated with little to no inputs that cost very little for both parties to do, both the landlord and the tenants are harvesting and selling the crops and making an income from it. If they want to move, they could sell it and start over somewhere else, and a new farmer could come in and buy out their old farm. All right, guys, so everything you're looking at right now, we've got a field, and this field and grassland continues on into the forest. From basically you buy land, and this is actually good land that's in good shape. From this to that over there, a productive farm was effectively 3 years work of waiting, not 3 years of work. The work, remember, was 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks and then 4 or 5 days. So it wasn't that much work. They bought degraded land where all of the topsoil had washed all the way down. And again, you can do this most anywhere. If you had a treed section, you'd go back. If you're gonna go in and you have treed timber.
Yeah, a silvopasture by removal.
Silvopasture by removal instead of silvopasture by addition.
Yeah.
And you still selectively cut things out that you want or don't want, and then you can add back in later. So you're not just going through and clear cutting. You're maintaining all that soil, and then you're getting access to all the nutrients that have been built up by that forest. It's probably actually faster, right?
It would be much more fertile soil underneath those trees than it is out in those fields.
Right.
I mean, look, you've seen it all over the place. That's the soil here.
This right here is the soil. All that hillside looked just like these rocks. There wasn't hardly anything there. Now you take a look at it, and it's, again, 3 years of waiting, but approximately 4 weeks of work.
That's about it.
4 weeks of work, and then it's maintained. This acreage is now producing six different companies that are making a living from it, that are helping to subsidize their personal lifestyle and entrepreneurship. So huge thing that Mark and his team are doing up here. Check out more on restorationagriculture.com, right?
Restorationag.com.
Restorationag.com. So here is a 5th season one, and we have a pond up here. It's collecting all the water down. It's at the top of the system, and then it charges the system, and then the overflow starts zigzagging around. It's actually raining right now, which is great. We might be able to see some of the swales in action. Actually, this swale is in action all the time because of the pond up here, which is cool. All right, so this is 5 years. There is an owner-operator who lives there. He bought the land. This was just abandoned fields, and the guy is now, he just mows the alleys 3 times a year. That's the only thing he does. He doesn't weed anything. He doesn't spray anything. He doesn't worry about anything. He has a beer in the shade or whatever, enjoying himself. but the network actually does the farming. This is a seed production location, so they harvest the seeds. Some of these have markings, and if there's a marking, certain markings mean different things, and they can be selected for certain regions or for the breeding diversity. But this is incredible. And then here again, you still have that swale. Again, I'm not sure how.
The spill point right here, which spills into the next one.
So right here, well, what Mark was just saying, you have the water coming out, it overflows, it starts to come here. Here's a spill point, it spills over, and it's doing the same thing, zigzagging down at a very gradual slope all the way down that way. Capturing slow spread and soaking the water in. Again, everyone knows this part, but the part they don't know is the people who live here enjoy it. They don't do very much, and they mow this three times a year. That's it. Much more to come in part 2 on an even larger scale than what you just saw. Guys, tune in next week. Like, subscribe. Remember, go out there, eliminate the struggle, and fix what bugs you.
Bum, bum, ba, da, ba, ba, bum, 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 ba, da, ba, ba, bum, 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 ba, da, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, da, da, bum, bum.